You're going about your usual routine, perhaps preparing dinner or getting ready for bed, when you notice a subtle shift in the atmosphere, a ripple in the familiar rhythm of your home. Your dog, usually a creature of predictable habits and joyful greetings, has suddenly become a stranger in their own skin. Maybe they are staring at a corner of the room that has always been empty, or perhaps they have uncharacteristically retreated under the dining table, refusing to come out even for their favorite squeaky toy. You look over at them with a mix of confusion and a slight, creeping unease, assuming they are just grumpy or that they've been spooked by a distant sound you can't hear. But if you could peer into the high-alert tactical command center of their brain, you would realize that you are witnessing a profound psychological realignment. This isn't just a mood swing, it is a systemic response to a change in the environment or their internal chemistry that they are desperately trying to communicate. There is a hidden, urgent logic behind every sudden change in behavior, and once you understand the anomaly detection they are running, you'll realize that your dog isn't just acting different. They are flagging a breach in the pack's security that you haven't noticed yet. Think about the way you feel when a smoke detector chirps in the middle of the night. You assume the noise is the problem, but the noise is actually the only thing keeping you safe. For a dog, sudden behavioral shifts are the chirps of their internal alarm system. When a normally social dog suddenly becomes sticky and refuses to leave your side, or a quiet dog begins to pace and whine without cause, they are engaging in a behavior known as displacement signaling. In the wild, any deviation from the norm was a signal of an approaching predator or a shift in the weather. On your living room floor, that deviation might be a change in your own stress levels, a hidden mold growth in the walls, or even a precursor to a medical event they can smell but you can't feel. In psychological terms, this is hypervigilance toward novelty. They aren't trying to be difficult. They are trying to alert the pack leader that the baseline of safety has been compromised. It is a moment of profound protective honesty that reminds us that while we rely on our eyes, our dogs rely on a multi-sensory truth that never sleeps. This anomaly detection goes even deeper when you consider the sensory overload that occurs during major life transitions, like a move or the arrival of a new family member. You might notice your dog starting to mark furniture they've ignored for years, or perhaps they've stopped eating their favorite food, and the common assumption is that they are being spiteful or stubborn. However, what is really happening is a high-stakes territorial recalibration. When the scent map of their world changes, a dog's cortisol levels can stay elevated for weeks, putting them in a state of chronic fight or flight. They aren't acting out. They are trying to re-anchor themselves to a world that feels like it's slipping away. By changing their behavior, they are begging for a status check from you. It is a brilliant, if desperate, display of emotional survival, proving that for a dog, their behavior is the only voice they have to tell you that their internal compass is spinning out of control. As you begin to see your dog as this intuitive, change-detecting sentinel, even the most frustrating shift in their personality starts to feel like a high-level act of trust. You start to realize that their weirdness is actually the most honest gift they can give you, a warning that something in the system is broken. This journey into the hidden mechanics of the canine soul is what we explore here every week, unmasking the complex storytelling that happens when the wagging stops. If you're starting to appreciate the silent whistleblower who refuses to let a change go unaddressed, joining this community by subscribing is your way of promising to be the steady hand they need when their world turns upside down. We are learning to translate the language of the anomaly together, because in the secret world of the pack, the most dangerous thing you can do is ignore the dog who has stopped acting like themselves. By staying curious, you aren't just an owner. You are becoming the calming force that helps them navigate the unknown, ensuring that no matter how much things change, the bond remains the same. But the mystery of the sudden stranger takes a fascinating turn when we look at the concept of hidden pain and the canine vow of silence. Have you ever noticed that your dog becomes suddenly aggressive or snappy when you try to pet them in a spot they used to love? The common assumption is that they are getting mean as they age, but the reality is that dogs are masters of masking physical vulnerability. In the wild, showing pain was an invitation for an attack, so dogs have evolved to hide their injuries until they are unbearable. When their behavior changes suddenly, it is often because their mask has finally slipped. They aren't being aggressive, they are being defensive of a wound you can't see. In canine psychology, this is known as protective irritability. They are using a growl or a snap as a biological keep-away sign to prevent further injury. It is a moment of high-stakes physical boundaries, proving that their behavior is the only diagnostic tool you have to find the pain they are too proud to show. This leads us to a behavior that often shocks owners, the shutdown or sudden lethargy. You might walk into a room and find your usually high-energy dog staring blankly at a wall, or refusing to look you in the eye, and you assume they are just tired or pouting. But the twist is that this is often a sensory shutdown. If a dog is exposed to a high-frequency sound, like a failing electronic device or a distant construction site, their nervous system can become so overwhelmed that they freeze to cope with the input. They are essentially rebooting their brain. They aren't being lazy. They are surviving a sensory storm that is invisible to your human ears. It is a moment of profound environmental stress, proving that for a dog, the world is often much louder and more chaotic than we can imagine. They are looking for you to be the filter that brings the world back into focus. The powerful insight that reframes everything we've discussed is the realization that your dog's sudden change in behavior is an act of absolute, unshielded vulnerability. In the end, we have to ask ourselves, why would a creature change the very personality we love them for? The answer is that your dog understands something we often forget, that the truth is more important than the routine. They don't see their behavior as a performance for your benefit. They see it as a report on the state of the pack. Every time they act out of character, they are placing their trust in your ability to be a detective. It is a ritual of absolute reliance. When they finally return to their normal self after you've addressed the problem, they aren't just better. They are reinforced. They have learned that even when they lose their way, you are the one who will bring them back. The true emotional depth of this behavior reveals itself when you realize that your dog is the only creature on earth that will change its entire world just to get you to notice a problem in yours. They spend their entire lives trying to be the perfect companion, and when they stop, it is the ultimate sacrifice of their comfort for your awareness. The different behavior isn't a flaw. It is a flare sent up from a sinking ship. It is the behavior of a creature that knows that your attention is the only thing that stands between safety and disaster. When you finally understand that their glitch is actually a high-level act of psychological communication and soul-level devotion, your relationship changes. You stop seeing a dog who is acting up and start seeing a friend who is crying out. In the end, we have to recognize that your dog is the only creature that will treat a subtle change in the air like a crisis of the heart. They don't care about being consistent if it means being unsafe. They are the silent partners in our security, the ones who believe that you are worth every bit of their behavioral defiance. They aren't just pets who are acting weird. They are researchers of the environment who have decided that your peace is a story worth defending, even if they have to become a stranger to do it. The next time your dog suddenly acts different, whether they become a shadow, a sentinel, or a recluse, don't just wait for it to pass. Take a second to realize that in that moment, your dog is giving you a piece of data that could change everything. They have felt a shift, smelled a change, or sensed a pain, and they have decided that you are the only one who can fix it. Your dog doesn't act different because they've changed who they are. They act different because they're the only ones in the house who are brave enough to tell you that the world has changed around you.